And welcome inside episode 94 of Breaking Bats, presented by Not For Long Media. My name is Justin Ayers. Folks, we have a huge episode this week. Not just a big episode, a huge episode. We are going to be joined in a moment by Baltimore Orioles first baseman Ryan O'Hearn. One of my favorite people, one of my favorite interviews. You're going to love the next hour of content. Ryan O'Hearn. We're a Brian O'Grady podcast, but we're also a Ryan O'Hearn podcast. So we support our fellow Irishmen out there playing the game. It's just so awesome. But before we get to Ryan O'Hearn, we wanted to give a shout out to 3 quick apparel sponsors. One of them is brand new. The first one is the new one, Zero Negative. They are a brand out to inspire and empower individuals to find a positive message in everything they do every time. They promote positivity, mindfulness, in all of their products. It's the coolest thing ever. So check them out, zeronegative.com. Next, Few Will Hunt. It's one of my favorite brands out there. It's just a great American company out of Philadelphia. They are out to restore the dignity of hard work. One of my favorite shirts to work out in, one of my favorite shirts I own. Check them out, fewwillhunt.com. Last but not least, Shoreboy Clothing Company. Even though it is dark at 5 p.m. and it's cold outside, Shoreboy Clothing Company captures the essence of a summer at the Jersey Shore in their apparel. What is not to like about that? Let's keep the good vibes flowing and check them out year-round at shoreboy.co. With that all being said, let's kick it to an interview that I guarantee you'll love or your money back. Ryan O'Hearn. Enjoy. All right, we are now joined by a very, very special guest, Ryan O'Hearn of the Baltimore Orioles, fresh off a day of golf. Dude, it's so great to see you. Thank you so much for giving us a piece of your time. How are you?
I'm good. Life is good. Just enjoying the off season, trying to, get my workouts going, do my stuff, but appreciate you guys having me on the Breaking Bats podcast. I've been following you guys for a while now.
Oh, thank you.
No,
that's awesome.
We're big fans. Obviously, I'm an Orioles fan, so I've been looking forward to this for a while. You're the man. I wanted to start because I was going back and I was reading about your college ball, Sam Houston State, and I wanted to talk specifically about like your coach. I was reading all about your coach, David Pierce, and just like his interesting coaching style, I guess it is. When you first got to Sam Houston State, you're a freshman, you're wide-eyed. Did you need that harsh style of coaching that he gave?
I did. I really did. And you know what? David Pierce is, first of all, the man and a really good coach. And I think maybe in that article, my experience with him is maybe a little bit different than a lot of players that have had. I was had not played much first base at all. And he made it clear to me that like, hey, you're going to play. So like he was hard on me for a reason, he needed to be hard on me for our team to be good. But yeah, I give him, at the time there was definitely times when we maybe, butted heads, or I felt like he was like, why is he like picking on me or whatever? But it was for good reason. And I, whenever I talk to him nowadays, I'm very appreciative of his tough love, because sometimes that's what it takes. And, he definitely prepared me in those 3 years for what was to come in pro ball.
He's at UT Austin now, isn't he?
Yeah. He's been at Texas for a while now. We did the same 3 years at Sam Houston, and then he went on to Tulane for a few years, and then got the job at Texas, and been killing it there ever since.
Oh yeah, I mean, every time I look, Texas is like up there with college baseball. What did you learn about yourself during those years at Sam Houston State with Coach Pierce? Like, and what did you take with you when you got to the draft and went to the pros?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, I think you just kind of find out what you're made of. I think when you're in high school as a baseball player and you're hitting 500 or whatever, and you're playing so good, so you think you're on top of the world. And I think kind of going in there and getting maybe like a dose of reality that, hey, you're not as good as you think you are, for one. Two, you're maybe not as mentally tough as I needed to be. I think that's probably the main thing that I learned from Coach Pierce was just, the mental toughness, just overcoming adversity, figuring out a way to get something done when maybe it didn't seem, or, it's not easy, but figuring out a way to get it done. And just the overall grind that I think a minor league season can put on a kid who's young and used to not used to playing that many games, not used to playing against the best of the best. And he kind of helped me change my mindset and get better at overcoming adversity, which I definitely faced in the minor leagues.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Kait wanted to actually ask about that.
Yeah, kind of touching on that. I know a lot of guests that we've had recently on talked about how hard it is for them, like when they're up and down in the minor leagues and getting like a little bit of glimpse of being up in the majors, then coming back down. When you were in the minor leagues and kind of handling that battle, what advice do you think would you give to someone that's currently going through that right now?
Yeah, same advice that I got is it's not going to go the way you think it is. It's not a really good analogy Mike Sweeney gave me one time was it's as much as you think it's going to be like this, oh, I'm going to go to AA this year. I'm going to go to Triple A this year. It's going to be like this, it's the sooner you figure out how to kind of ride the wave and you look for the silver lining and, just kind of embrace, the hard times and, it teaches you a lot about life for sure, which is, being able to overcome hardships and move past things and all that. But that's probably the, best advice that I ever got in the minor leagues was it's not going to go the way you think it is. This game is crazy. As soon as you think you know something, it's going to kick you in the balls pretty much. And, so yeah, that's it.
Justin?
So I wanted to touch on our, third member of this podcast, Brian O'Grady, Ryan O'Hearn, the names, I think that might've been where the connection first started, but can you take me back to 2014, the first time you guys maybe met, playing against him? I think he was with, I guess, Billings, and you were with Idaho?
I think he came up with the Reds. So I think it was Billings. And I was Idaho Falls Chuckers. And the similar names is what struck me at first. Brian O'Grady, a good Irish name, good Irishman. He's, really good swing, athletic dude. Like I say, one day he's playing first base, one day he's playing center field. I'm like, man, this guy's way more athletic than me. I could never play center field, but, we kind of had that small connection. And then, playing against him all the way up and, how it is, you play against guys and you kind of get to know somebody who's on the other team. And, Brian O'Grady's a great dude, great baseball player. And, it's been an honor to compete against him.
You'll love that. Yeah. That's why I'm so happy we got you on, just cause he's told me stories about playing against you. And he said you're the league MVP that season for Idaho Falls. Is that right?
Yeah. I had played a really good hitter's park. So I had maybe the benefit of the doubt over some other guys, but yeah, good times. That's maybe when I peaked in the Pioneer League.
Everything I've read, it's just it's like you were always a middle of the order guy, like college, high school, pro ball. Did you ever anticipate your start to pro ball going as well as it did? Granted, hitter friendly park, but that first season, you're looking at your numbers, you're like, oh my god, that's what was your mindset year one?
Yeah, not at all. I had no idea. It's hard not to be intimidated. Not intimidated, but kind of you're going into pro ball, you're going to the minor leagues. I didn't know what to expect. I wasn't a first rounder. I got drafted in the 8th round. My first game in Idaho, I went 5 for 5, and I was like, oh wow, maybe I can do this. And then you get a few hits here and there, you learn some things, and then that confidence starts to snowball, and you believe in yourself. And that first year was huge for me because as far as from a mental standpoint of my expectations of what I wanted from myself got so much better because, I had no idea that I was going to be the MVP or that I could even have a chance of being the MVP of the Pioneer League. But that's just the way it shook out. God gave me some unbelievable talents, and I've always kind of been a late bloomer, I think. And I think when I got into pro ball and things kind of clicked, and I'm, not that I didn't believe in myself already, but I really started to after that season.
No doubt. I've always read that you're a super competitive guy. You get locked in. How have you been able to find a balance between being that fierce competitor and also not letting it consume every part of your life?
Yes. Yeah. That's was a battle for me. I love to compete in everything, not just baseball, everything. And as a competitor, when you don't have success, it can consume you. And that happened to me, over a few years in Kansas City. And I really, had to figure out a way to not bring that home. And I didn't do a good job at that sometimes. And my fiance Hannah had to like kind of sit me down and be like, dude, look, you need to cut this out and be yourself. And you can't let what happens at the game, overtake the rest of your life. And, you hear that so much coming up, but it really is true. And when I was able to kind of separate those two things and just kind of let go of this like tight grip I had on my career, that's when things kind of started to change towards the end of my time in Kansas City.
No doubt. Go ahead, Kait.
Yeah. So kind of touching on that, was there like an instance someone said, I know you said that your fiance said something too. I read that about in the article, in the Athletic, an article. Was there anything that like a player or a coach said to you? I know you said that you're very close with the Orioles hitting coach. They've helped you out a lot with your swing this year, but just trying to get you in that mindset for the season in 2023.
Yeah, well, when I got traded over, I had already kind of had that got over that point of like every game is do or die. Like, I just holding on to this idea of what my career was supposed to be, and if I didn't do that, then it was going to be a failure. So I kind of had got over that and kind of just learned to just really have a grateful spirit is what I've called it, and what I've kind of attached to is just having a grateful spirit about the game. Every day I get to put on a uniform. Every day I get to show up and play baseball. I'm going to enjoy it because I don't want to look back in 20, 30 years and be like, wow, I got to play a few years in the big leagues and I was pissed off the whole time. I was mad at my performance the whole time. I wanted to look back and appreciate what I had accomplished. And, I got to that point of like, whatever's going to happen is what's going to happen. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to give them my best shot. I'm going to enjoy this time and, not beat myself up over every little thing. And so by the time I got traded over to the O's, showing up to spring training last year, I had this great, like kind of a fresh mindset. It was nobody knew me. It's a change of scenery. I didn't know the coaches. I didn't really know any of the guys. And, I just figured it was a fresh opportunity to be who I wanted to be, not who I had fallen into over the last years of, in Kansas City. Just an opportunity to show up and play and have fun and enjoy the game. And I really did, man. I enjoyed every day. I have enjoyed and hopefully will continue to enjoy being an Oriole. It was a blast. They had such a cool group of guys and coaches, and I felt very welcome when I showed up. And even though my name wasn't very high in the depth chart when I showed up in spring training, I still felt like one of the dudes, like they cared about me. They had plans for me or whatever. But yeah, it was such a good experience this year.
That's awesome. And then just battling for a spot in the lineup this year, I want to get a little bit more into hitting because we've had some guests on and they're like, no, I need to be glued to the iPad. I want to analyze every single aspect of my swing after an at bat. And we've had other guys on saying, no, I don't want to know the pitch. I don't want to know what he's throwing. I want to just go up there and hit. Where do you kind of fall between those two types of players?
I would say I'm like right in the middle.
Okay.
I definitely like to watch a little bit of, I want to see the shapes that the pitchers are going to throw. And I love, and also, if I have, hit 3 homers off the guy, like I want to watch my highlight reel. Like there's something to be said for that. Watching, a video, of yourself having success, like a dig me video or whatever, whatever you want to call it. I think there's something to be said for that. But at the same time, it can be too much, if you're, constantly looking at every pitch, every swing. What did my front hip do there? What it can be too much. And I think that's kind of the name of the game in baseball right now is there's so much information thrown at you. Being able to decipher what is going to actually benefit you and what is just fluff is something that I think guys, figure out along the way.
Do you think in terms of the game right now, there is a sense of too much analytics as opposed to just like the old school way, or with the times it's kind of necessary?
I think it fits with the times. I wouldn't consider myself like super analytical, and I wouldn't really consider myself like old school either. Like I want to, I want to get information, but it's just however you can take that information in and then formulate a plan with it. Like if you're going up to the box and you're thinking like this guy's got 11 inches of run, like, or he throws this upshoot fastball and it, you have numbers in your brain. I think that's tough to go up there and compete. But at the same time, if you look at the numbers and then you go on the machine before the game and you kind of practice like what his fastball is going to look like or what his slider is going to look like, and then you got a feel to like attack it, then you take that into the game, and then I think that's a good way to use the information to benefit you.
Thanks. Justin?
You mentioned going back and watch. What's up?
So I hope that answers your question.
Oh, no, it does. No, it does. Thank you.
Or am I rambling? Let me know.
No, you're good.
One thing you said in there I thought was fascinating is going back and watching your own stuff. Is there like, what's the best swing you've ever taken? Like, what's the video that has the most plays in your iPad? Like, this is the ball that I absolutely crushed.
Oh man, there's been a few good ones. From this season, I hit one at the end of the year. Well, okay, there's a few good ones that I go back and look at. One of them, I think that is maybe my favorite, was a 3-run homer off of Romano on a slider in like the 8th in Toronto to kind of to tie it up. And I think that kind of like kickstarted my season. I think that's when O's fans kind of like learned my name maybe a little bit, or kind of that's when it all started going. That one stands out to me. I hit a homer off of Savali in Baltimore at the end, and I had a little pimp job on it. I'm pretty vanilla, I think, overall. I've been vanilla throughout my career, so I had a little pimp job on that one. So I kind of like to watch that one. That I feel good about that. I had a pinch hit homer off Jake Bird, which was a good one. And then, of course, I went off Kansas City. I was 4 for 4, playing your old team, and I hit a good one. Didn't really impact the game, but it felt good.
I think I was at the one where you hit the Jake Bird. Was the Jake Bird one at home against Colorado?
Yeah, day game at home.
Yeah, you were.
I think Tyler Anderson, maybe. There was a lefty starting that day, and then I came in pinch hit in the 8th off Jake Bird, first pitch homer. Cutter.
Dude, that's the best.
We lost that game.
Yeah. Dang. Okay. You mentioned pinch hitting, and I had a question about this, and I went back and I saw a video of you. I think it was when you were in Kansas City talking about like your approach of pinch hitting. When Brian's been on, he's talked about like he's going up there. You got to swing at the first pitch, and you can't let a first pitch fastball get by you. Like I looked, and you're actually a lifetime 256 pinch hitter, like average career pinch hitting. That's actually pretty good, I feel like. How have you been able to find success coming in cold off the bench, probably against a closer or late inning reliever?
Yeah, that's a great question. That was my bread and butter the last year in Kansas City. That's kind of how I stuck around. So I had to embrace it. It's not, nobody wants that job, but that's your only way to stay on the team. Then you got to embrace it. So yeah, I think I agree with what Brian said. You cannot go up there and just see one, because that could be your best pitch to hit. And these guys in the back end, their stuff is ridiculous. It's not, you got to find a way to make your living off what the rest of the league hits $115 off of. So it's like, and you haven't had an at bat in, I don't know, 2, 3, 7 days. Like it's just a tough job. But I think the way you do it is you get on those machines, starting in the 6th inning. You do like challenge BP, where you basically take at bats off of a hitting coach who's not lobbing it in there. He's throwing it hard and he's trying to spin the ball and do all these things. Just like make practice really hard, basically, so that when you get in there, like you have a shot. But another thing is when I first started doing that job, I would get kind of overcome by the moment. Because it is a big situation. If you're pinch hitting, like it's probably for a reason, to try and win the game. So you can be overcome, the stress or pressure of that situation can kind of get you out of your out of your lane. So I think I learned how to kind of channel that adrenaline and that energy and kind of be like, okay, there it is. Like I feel it, but I don't have to like be owned by it. Like I can just use it as energy. And I think there's definitely an art to it. Yeah, but you got to want to do the job. That's the key. You got to be, you got to be committed and convicted to do the job, and you have to find a way to embrace it.
I think it's the hardest job in baseball. And Brian said the same thing too. What's your approach for like staying locked in for days that you're like, you're pinch hitting and not starting? Like, I think Brian said he's taped up first inning. He's got the cleats on. He's like raring to go. Do you sit there like that for, I don't know, like a couple hours? Like, how are you staying locked in?
Yeah, I've seen that. I played with a guy named Ryan McBroom for a while. And that man, that's my boy. He had a on in the first inning, ready to go. No, for me though, it was probably like the first 5 innings. I would kind of take it easy, like watch, hang out with the starters, like starting pitchers, cheer on the guys, watch the game. But at the same time, you're kind of monitoring, like seeing what's going on. Like if they get like in the playoffs, for example, as soon as they had a righty up in the pen, like I was ready to go. But during the regular season, I would take those first few innings, kind of take it easy. And then maybe in the 6th, I would go up, get loose, start my like program, kind of look over the guys that I might possibly face in the back end, and then kind of get their shapes going off the machines, stuff like that. Just preparing yourself for a potential at bat.
Yeah. And like I said, you've had a lot of success doing it. So there is an art to being a pinch hitter.
Yeah.
There's been a big topic of conversation online. I watched the MLB Network segment about this. I've talked to Brian about this. It's just like your swing mechanic evolution, I guess, over the last couple of years, like in Kansas City to now. I think Mark DeRosa said it was all about you took the bat off your shoulder, and that was one of the things he pointed out. And like Brian said, it's like you're more closed off now. Like, can you like walk me through the changes that you've made that have been so beneficial to your swing and your success?
Yeah, I can try. I'll tell you what, man. And you guys mentioned this on the that podcast, but it was or on that episode, it was really a combination of things. Combination of like taking something from every hitting coaches that I've had over the last few years, just trying to learn, and then ultimately getting an opportunity to like test it out consistently, which is the Orioles gave me a great opportunity this year to play. And but yeah, the bat on the shoulder thing, when my bat went from here to here, let me get it here, from here to here to start, that was an Orioles thing. That was Ryan Fuller, Kobayashi, and Borgschulte. It was because I think my first like month or so with the O's this year, I was still kind of resting it on my shoulder, which I had done for so long. And I was hitting decent. I think I was hitting like 260, and they brought it to me and they were like, hey, what if we made this move? And I was kind of like, well, I'm doing better than I ever have, but I decided to trust them on it, and it obviously paid off. But so that the point of that was that my upper body and my hands and bat my torso had all been kind of like glued together. So like I would like lean back, and then like if it was middle away, like I'm hammering it. But I didn't have very good adjustability to like move my adjust to a pitch down and in, like get on top of the pitch. I wasn't using my ability to like adjust things. I was just kind of glued up here. So I think that was a big time breakthrough for me, because all of a sudden I started handling sliders down and in that I would swing over and miss by a foot for the last 4 years. Like I would catch one and it would be a homer, and I'd be like, holy shit, what was that? I've never done what was that? Or a fastball up, being able to get on top of the fastball up and hit it for, backspin a ball in the gap. Things I was hitting balls that I had not hit in those locations ever. And when I started to do that, it's kind of like those days in Idaho, like you just get that confidence rolling, and you start believing in what you're doing. And things can snowball for you in a good way.
The trio of Orioles hitting coaches sounds like they sound like they have their stuff together. I think Kait actually had a question about that.
Yeah, just trying to digest like all of the different responses that you get from hitting coaches throughout the years, especially being more of like a veteran presence. How do you kind of pick and choose what exactly you should focus on? Or is it just like a bunch of trial and error in the box? It's something that you work on in practice and then implement in the game?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, because I've had so many great hitting coaches, and it's like sometimes things might, just because of, for whatever reason, things might not translate into your brain. But I think with my goal was to try to take something from every hitting coach I've ever had. And when I got to the Orioles, it just seemed like everything they were saying made sense to me. And, they had so many great ideas and so many, they just gave me examples of why we were doing this, and how it could potentially help me out. And then, you watch them work with Gunnar and Adley and Tander and all these guys that are, smashing baseball, SETI, like all these studs. And I'm like, well, let's work for these guys. Like, maybe I should buy in. And, I pretty much just trusted them from the start. And, all three of those guys did do a really good job. And they're really good at, kind of relating to players and understanding their guys and what makes them tick. And, they just, I can't say enough good things about those guys.
I mean, it clearly worked out for you extremely well this year. Can you think of like a specific moment where it just like a light bulb went off in your brain, or like it clicked at the plate and you just felt really comfortable in like a good groove?
Yeah. I think I took a batting practice in spring training, and I was hitting balls like really. I've always had kind of an issue backspinning balls to right field, like in the air. And I got to spring training and we started working, and I just got to the point where it was like I couldn't miss. Like I was backspinning everything, and balls carrying like crazy, and it was like minimal effort, and it just felt like right, felt free and easy. And so that was maybe a moment that it clicked. I forgot to mention one guy that's really helped me out big time is shout out Dan Hennigan, my guy at Brain and Barrel. I went and saw him last offseason, and I took a lot from him too. He kind of got the ball rolling, and it turns out that him and Ryan Fuller, the guy from the O's, kind of, had knew each other a little bit and kind of had, very similar ideas for what I should do with my swing. But so, you do really, you feel really good in batting practice, you feel really good in the cage, you feel like you're buying into what these guys are saying. And then I wasn't sure until I got to the game. And then when it translated into the game, you kind of have that confidence, like, like I might be a problem, I might be able to do some things. So, I mean, maybe that moment in spring training, but other than that, once it kind of got game time, it just seemed like everything just happened really quick.
We interrupt this episode to bring you a word from the official sponsor of Not For Long Media and the Breaking Bats podcast, the original Fudge Kitchen. It is a staple of the Jersey Shore with 6 locations in Cape May, Wildwood, North Wildwood, Stone Harbor, and Ocean City. The original Fudge Kitchen makes all of their fudge in store, guaranteeing a delicious product, so stop by and let them know that Not For Long Media and Breaking Bats sent you. Check them out online at fudgekitchens.com, as they are shipping fudge and sweet treats all across the country. Now back to the episode.
And then I kind of want to transition more to the Orioles in general this season. I'm a Yankees fan, but you guys were probably the most fun team to watch, I have to say. So, like, young, great mixture of young, few veterans. Having a team that, like, nobody really projected to be on top of the AL East at the end of the season, did you guys really just embrace that underdog mentality? I remember Adley had an interview where he said, yeah, I just feel like we're never out. And that's kind of how it was every single game. I feel like you guys were just never out. There was a lot of comeback wins. So what was that mentality in the clubhouse this season?
For one, we all believed that we had a really good team. And it never really felt like we were the underdogs. I know nobody picked us to win the East. And we kind of embraced that maybe towards the end when there was a few games left. That's maybe a little like, hey, nobody picked us, type of thing. But I think throughout the course of the season, the team was just such an even keel. Like the equilibrium was never off. Like we lost 2-3 in a row, which is probably the most I don't even know, the most we lost all year. Like it was so the same. It was, for such a young team, it had such a mature feel in the clubhouse. And, we had really good players, and, it just seemed like I agree with Rush. Like, we were never out of it. I can think of many times when we came back and, down a few runs late in the game and, boom, big inning. And it just seemed like it happened so quick. But yeah, what a year, what a fun team to be a part of. I enjoyed every day I got to play with those guys, and, such a good group. I know it's, the team is probably going to look hopefully very similar to what it did last year, but, you're still going to lose a few guys. That's just kind of how the game goes. But, always look back on 23 and appreciate that group of guys that we had.
Love that. Justin, you want to jump in?
Yeah. So I think the Orioles were like one of the youngest teams in baseball, kind of like you mentioned. As like a more veteran, I don't want to say old because you're not old, but I guess compared to some of these other guys, like, like, how did you approach the advice giving, like being a sounding board for some of these guys that are like 21, 22?
Yeah, I'm not like a super like, hey, let me give you some advice type guy. If anyone ever asked me anything, I just use, my experience to the best of my ability and try to, help them out. And really, those guys are so talented. It's more about just like loving on them and getting them to loosen up a little bit. Sometimes, it's, I feel like baseball is, recently, a lot of these guys come up and they're so talented and they can turn into robots because they're so good. And it's just like they've been in a driveline facility since they were, 13 years old or whatever. But, they're all so talented. And for me, it wasn't so much about like being super vocal and giving advice, but just kind of going through it with them, being there in the trenches with them every day. But yeah, that core of guys is unbelievably talented, and they're all really good people, really down to earth. Just there's no Hollywood, it's just a really solid group of guys, and I think they're going to win for a long time.
Did you kind of feed off the energy that the young guys were bringing every day?
Yeah, for sure. When you lead off with a game and Gunnar hits a ball that should be a single and is, busting ass around first base, diving, swim move into second for a double, which you had no business getting, little things like that, taking the extra base, dirt ball reads, just little things that those guys that, all of our guys really played hard, but Gunnar stands out in my mind. It just seemed like he was freaking balls to the wall every day, flying around. And, it's hard not to feed off of that. It's hard not to. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. It was fun to watch every day. And, he stands out in my mind, but there were so many guys like that, Adley, Westberg, Hazy. Come on, Hazy's unbelievable in the outfield. I could brag on these guys all day, but it just seemed like everybody had that energy and had kind of just like a little bit of a chip on the shoulder, but like, just everybody wanted to go out there and kick somebody's ass every day. Yeah, I think that's the mentality you have to have success in that league.
No doubt. Did you see some of that in 22, like from the outside looking in from this team that won 83 2 years ago? Like when you were looking at this team, maybe playing against them in Kansas City, where you're like, they're building something here. And then to come here this year, obviously it's the best.
Yeah, I think, we played them pretty early on, I think in 22. So, it wasn't, they hadn't like, I think they hit a big streak towards the end of the year where they won like 10 in a row or something. And that's, when it was like, okay, these guys are serious. But yeah, I definitely thought that they were talented. I remember they did the stupid, I saw this, and throwing the grenade like every 5 minutes, when we played them, they scored a bunch of runs. But yeah, you could definitely see it coming and feel it coming.
The celebrations were one of my favorite things. Did you get into it? Like as the season went on, were you a little hesitant at first? You're like, I have to turn the sprinkler on? I have to do this? Like,
No,
did you embrace it initially?
absolutely. You got to, you want to be a part of the team, and, I thought the celebrations were great. We had a whole, waterworks, agenda going on, and Gibby Gibby was making sure everybody was on top of it at the beginning. And then, it just kind of took on a thing of its own.
Who was it? I think somebody was on second base and they didn't look in the dugout and like the guys had like the water in their mouths for like 5 minutes.
Yeah. Who was that? I do remember that. I forget. I know we're on the road. I think we might have been playing the Nationals actually. But yes, I do remember that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Gibson was the one that he invented the Homer hose, or was that like an Austin Hayes Gibson production or something?
No, that was I got to give the right guy credit here.
Very important.
I think that was Cole Irvin's idea. I think Irv came up with the Homer hose, or he came up. I think he was the original like waterworks guy. And then you know how it goes. It just kind of, there was a new idea every day, and then we had our set celebrations.
When you hit a home run and like you're like, all right, I'm gonna go back to the dugout, do the Homer hose. Did you ever think about like, did somebody wipe this off first, or was that never?
No, not once did I think about the cleanliness. I will say at one point I wondered, maybe we didn't hit a home run for a few games, and I was like, is this thing just been like collecting dust sitting around? I don't know if anybody cleaned the Homer. And then I know when we clinched playoffs, that Homer hose got some work. So I hope so much after that.
I saw Mike Elias take the Homer hose, and I was like, this guy is the man. Him, Brandon Hyde, like the whole like front office managerial staff. Like, how much fun is it like having those guys be like your manager, your GM? Like, that has to be like the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, so cool. They were completely bought in, obviously, and on the Homer hose, and that celebration was such a good celebration because it was such a back and forth game, and like a high intensity, like crazy game, and such a fun game to like send you off into a celebration. So I think everybody was, just on cloud nine, ready to party after that win. And then it translated obviously into some good videos of the Homer hoses, and really cool to have your GM, taking part in that.
That was the game you laid down a sack bunt, wasn't it?
Yeah, my only career sack bunt.
Tell me about that. Like, like when you first got the signal or the sign, they're like, were you initially like, I'm in, whatever you guys need, I'm your guy?
Yeah, well, Hyde came up to me. I want to say it was like the 11th inning. And I was leading off, and, man on goes or runner on second base, and they had Diekman in, and Hyder, and I figured, hey, I'm just going to try to roll over. Like, that's what I thought. And Hyde came up to me, and he was like, I got a tough assignment for you. You think you can get a bunt down? And I was like, in the back of my mind, I was like, shit, I don't even remember the last time I bunted. But I was like, fuck yeah, dude, let's get it down. It's one of those deals where you are so locked in, and you're willing to do whatever you can do to help the boys win the ball game. I remember maybe like a couple weeks earlier or a month earlier, McCann got a bunt down against the Rays off Fairbanks, and he pitch was up and in, and he bunted it between, like, on the handle between his hands, and got it down. And that's where my mind went, and I was like, yeah, like I'm gonna get this bunt down. Luckily he threw like a pretty good pitch to bunt, because I was gonna stick my face in there and do whatever I had to do.
Pete Fairbanks, friend of the pod. When was the last you faced Pete? I'm assuming this year, right?
I did, yeah.
Take me through an at bat against Pete Fairbanks. I want to know the hitter's perspective, because I've heard him hype the pitching side up, but like, what's it like in the box?
Yeah, the fastball is serious for sure. It's kind of like, I never faced Felix Bautista, but I would imagine that's what Felix Bautista's fastball looks like. Kind of like straight high release, and then it comes down and kind of stays on plane. So like you think it might be low, but it's not. It's going to stay right there. So you got to trust that for one. So there's a fastball at 100 or whatever. And then the slider is obviously very good. It's coming back quick. So I just remember thinking, like, if I saw a slider out of his hand, like up and away, like I'm going. And I got a big hit. He's got me a few times, obviously, hats off, like, tip your cap. But I got him once this year, in the 9th inning or something in Tampa with a guy in second base, just like a little blooper down the line. But hey, I'm taking it all day. It was to tie the game up, or maybe to put us ahead one, on the slider. And I remember my plan was, it just seemed like every time I faced him this year, it was like something different, kind of like a cat and mouse game. Like one time I thought he was going to throw sliders, he threw fastballs. The next time I thought he was going to throw fastballs, sliders. So I think that time around I was looking for slider, and we kind of had a battle going, and it was maybe a full count, and he threw a slider away. And I just remember if I saw it out of his hand away, I'm going. And then luckily, caught it off the end of the bat, dropped it in, put the boys. I don't know if we tied it or if we went up one there, but yeah, obviously he's really good. You got to be ready to go facing Fairbanks.
Frazier caught one off him too. I don't know how he hit that. That was the one down the line.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That was huge. Frazier was pulling that out like randomly, like during the season. It seemed like anytime we needed a really big hit and he was up, he would just like shoot one down the left field line, and it was money.
I love it. Kait, what do you got?
Yeah, so heading into the off season, I know that you said today you've been golfing, have a couple days golfing lined up. Can you take us through like a day in the life? I know you're not really in baseball mode right now. When do you kind of like turn it back on and kind of start getting ready for spring training?
Yeah, I'll start swinging a bat a little bit after Thanksgiving, and then I'll go see my guy Dan Hennigan again out in Philly, and sometime in January. And so I like to hit maybe like for a few weeks before I see him. And then when I come back from seeing him, it's like every day kind of just working on like little critiques and little touches that he's got with me. But the lift, like I love to lift. I'll work out pretty much every day. I like to lift weights. I like to run. I like to just go outside and be active as much as possible. So yeah, and I like to get up early, which is a new development in my life as I'm getting in my 30s. I swear I'm like staring at the ceiling at like 7:30 in the morning. So I get out of bed. I like to go get my workout over with. If there's an opportunity to play golf, I'm going to take advantage. But yeah, it's, the off season for me is, this part of the off season for me is really it's good to kind of get away and kind of, shut your brain off of baseball as much as possible, even though like that's so hard because, you open up X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and it's like this guy signed here, this guy went here, this is going on. So it's like trying not to get too caught up in baseball and give myself a breather, and then just continuing to lift and getting my body right and ready to go for the season. It seems like as you get older, it just seems like it's kind of like it just you've done it so many years, it's kind of a science, and your body knows what to do.
Just like second nature. Yeah.
Yep.
Do you have any big travel plans coming up? I mean, you've played a 162 game season plus playoffs.
Yeah, my little sister's getting married in Cancun next week. Yeah, so I'll be there for that. Working on my little speech right now.
Nice.
Let's see. I got a golf trip with the boys to Cabo the week after that for Nikki Lopez's bachelor party, and then my bachelor party in San Diego the week after that. And then so it's going to be kind of crazy for the next like 3 weeks, and then after that I'll be home and getting in the gym and staying on that grind.
I feel like the off season, a lot of weddings, and for you, wedding planning. There's a lot going on.
Yes, and paying wedding bills and all that. Yeah.
Trusting God.
My ears perked up when you said running, because this is a running podcast. Kait and I mean, we're putting in the miles. How far could you run right now if you had to?
Oh my gosh, not far. I don't know. All right. I will say this, and there's guys on the O's that can attest to this. I went through a stretch this year for we'll call it 2 weeks, where I ran a mile every day. So take that for what you will. You guys that was a big deal, but that was a big deal for me. I was running a solid like 7-minute mile every day. So I was, yeah. But if I had to run like right now, like, I don't know, like depends on what's at stake. If it's like like 5 miles, maybe, I don't know. 4?
It's far.
I don't know.
I like that. Baltimore's a great running city. We got to see you out there running the harbor sometime.
No, I'm all right. I'll walk I'll take a walk. I do like, I tell you what, I did like walking around like Fells Point and kind of walking up and down the harbor. I think next year, if we hopefully we come back, and I think we might try to live in Canton. And I know there's like a really cool like park down there, kind of on the water. So that might be good to take a walk.
I used to work in Canton. Yeah, the whole like Fells Point, Canton. There's so many nice parts of the city. Have you had an opportunity, like, I know this year is probably hard because it was your first year, but like, have you had an opportunity to like ingratiate yourself a little bit, have some crab cakes, go to Jimmy's Seafood, that kind of thing?
Oh yeah, we did the Jimmy Seafood. Those people are awesome. They had us, and then yeah, we were all in on the Maryland, the Baltimore cuisine. Plenty of crab cakes, crab cake egg rolls, which are bomb, by the way. Yeah, I love the food in Baltimore. I really enjoyed, going out to eat there and, having all the crab cakes and everything.
It's the best.
Right?
Okay, I had some fun last like kind of rapid fire ish questions.
Okay.
So you obviously Kansas City Royals organization. I might be the number one Eric Hosmer fan out there. I love the guy. Like, what was it like? Kind of maybe like picking his brain in spring training, getting the opportunity to like learn from a guy like Hos.
Man, Haas was the coolest. I never met anybody say a bad thing about Haas. Haas is like just kind of one of those guys, man. Kind of like a glue guy. Like everybody was just, he kind of brought everybody together. He was just like kind of like that guy, like the leader on that team when I was coming up. And so really cool for me to be able to spend a little bit of time around him, take ground balls with him and stuff. And he's been really cool to me ever since, every time we see each other on the field or whatever. But I'm with you. I'm a big time Haas fan. What a legend, honestly. Like watching him play first base, I feel like I learned so much from the way he played first base, the way he would, pick balls out of the dirt, and just all of it, really. He makes it look so easy over there. But yeah, a pretty cool guy to, coming up when you go to your first big league camp and stuff. I couldn't have asked for like a cooler like guy to kind of look up to in spring training.
That's Kait can attest. I mean, he's my favorite. Yes. I love that guy. So I read that you're a little bit of a guitar player. How did that start? And like, what's like the best song you can bang out on the guitar right now?
Yeah, I started playing the guitar back in the day in college, and just kind of like brought it with me. I've gone through stretches of like, oh, I'm really into this. And then like, I get so frustrated and like throw it away and like not look at it again for 5 months or whatever. And then I'll pick it up again. And just like a love-hate relationship. I'm not a good guitar player by any means. I can dabble. I can play a few songs. I can play a few John Mayer songs, some country songs and stuff, but it's just like a low-key hobby. Like that's not really like a hobby that I kind of wanted like out in the internet. Like I don't know. Shit. I don't want to like, hey buddy, let's hear you play a song, because you said no, it's definitely a fun challenge. I played a little bit when I was a kid. My parents made me take piano lessons, so I kind of got interested in like playing music a little bit back then. And as I've gotten older, it's like just a time filler. It's a good time though. It's fun.
Well, apologies if I didn't realize. Although, dude, I mean, I'm the biggest John Mayer.
You didn't make that up. That was out there somewhere.
Yeah. I don't know where I saw that, but
Justin was digging right.
Yeah, it wasn't intentional. Yeah, although we are both John Mayer fans, so
you are John Mayer fans. Who is
the biggest?
Goat, right?
The biggest John Mayer fan.
Yeah.
What songs of his do you know?
Like on the guitar, or like do I know by ear? Like play the guitar. Yeah, like the one that I worked on forever was Why Georgia. Yeah.
Oh, it's a good one. Yeah. It's classic.
Classic, yeah.
Classic one.
Yeah. I think people will like this side of you.
What's that?
I think people are going to enjoy hearing this side of you. Yeah. I think you should lean into it.
All right, maybe I will.
Yeah, Adam Wainwright singing. You could play the guitar next to him. That'd be great. We could form a band together.
That's a lot of pressure. I don't know if I'd be on a stage playing an instrument ever, but
I like that. So you mentioned like going out to dinner in Baltimore. Do you guys do like team dinners? Are those like a thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
More so on the road though. You got a lot of guys have kids, and when we're at home, they want to spend time with their kids and family and stuff like that. But like if we get an off day on the road, if we say we get in on Sunday at like 5-6 p.m. somewhere, we'll go have a team dinner. And yeah, I mean the O's last year had a tight group. We wanted to hang out. We wanted to spend time together away from the field, and so we did.
Who's like the most likely to either like pick up the tab, or is there somebody that like the people are like, all right, you have to pay?
No, there's some of the guys making some real money were splitting it up there at the top. The
It would
Gibbies
just be funny if
and the Frasers and I help
is
out.
that like
I'm not. I'll pitch in a little bit.
I just think it would be funny if like the rookie got like stuck with the bill or something. Like Heston Kjerstad is like got like $1,000.
I mean, we had some super rich rookies this year. They have no problem picking up the bill.
That's true.
That's a good point.
Between Greg and Heston and all those guys.
Yeah.
A lot of first rounders.
Yeah. What was the thing with Heston? It was like after he got his first home run, like the celebration I was hearing about. Like, is like the shopping cart coming out for that? Is that what? Do I have that right?
Yeah. Well, that's the classic baseball thing. Your first win as a hitter, your first save as a reliever, your first homer as a hitter. You're going to take a trip in the basket, and it's just luck of the draw based on what you have doused all over you. Yeah.
That's as a non like I played like high school baseball, but like just the thought of like, all right, like there's condiments coming out. It's gonna be a time in the shower. Yeah.
It's something that every player remembers, when they get their first ride in the cart. I remember mine vividly. Yeah, it's just a good thing. It's just a little bit of love from the guys,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I had a question about playing with Adley Rutschman. We ask everybody who's like associated with the Orioles, like, okay, like the easy, like what's it like playing with Adley? But also like, has his love of the show I Think You Should Leave rubbed off on you or anybody else in the clubhouse?
What show is that?
It's on Netflix. It's the Tim Robinson, like the sketch, like the silly comedy thing.
I haven't even seen that. I haven't seen that. But Rutch is awesome, man. He's just like it just reminds me of like a quarterback back there, He the way he controls the staff, and but as a dude, he's awesome, hilarious, just a quality guy, man. He's fun to hang out with, and absolute legend on and off the baseball field. It's been an honor to play with Rutch. I played with two really really good catchers between Salvi and Rutch, and that's been pretty cool. Hopefully,
yeah, I think so. I think your assignment this offseason should be checking it out. I Think You Should Leave, and then just showing up to camp next year, dropping all the quotes, just like asking Adley if he wants to get like sloppy steaks sometime. He'll love it.
Okay, that's funny because he used to always say like sloppy steaks to me, and I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I don't even know. It's okay. Well, that makes sense.
Yes, guarantee you come back next year. Yeah, that's also funny to think that like he's saying things to you, and you think that they're like, no, they're like mildly funny, but like the references.
Like, I thought he came up with that on his own. To be honest, I was like, okay, like don't know exactly what that means, but that's funny.
Slop him up. Yeah, I got Kait on this show. It's my favorite thing.
Okay.
All right, last question for you. Thank you so much for your time. This has been incredible.
Yeah,
what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Wow, that's a freaking killer question. Man, I've had so much really good advice, for over the years, from baseball people. I don't know. And I feel like I just want to go with like a simple answer from, my dad has always given me really good advice. He's kind of always been the guy who's, post game texting me about at bats or about this or that, or just kind of my guy I could go to. And, he always tells me, work hard and enjoy what you do. And I think that's, maybe a cop-out answer, but it's probably the best advice I've ever gotten.
Yeah, I mean, your dad's dropping some words of wisdom there. Like I
That's
love
just
that, dude.
like a fundamental, word of advice or word of wisdom from him, for, pretty much my entire life. So I kind of live by that. And yeah, shout out Dad.
I love that. All right, Kait, any last things? I know you dropped out for a second, but this is
I think I'm good.
anything?
Thank you, Ryan.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you guys
Dude.
for having me. I enjoyed it.